Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the movie Doctor Strange. And overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I think it was a good setup to Doctor Strange entering the MCU. And even though it was an origin story, I think they did a pretty good job with it because it wasn't your really typical origin story in that it was more of an origin story for the hero and the villain more so than just the hero. So that kind of leads to kind of the villains being a little bit kind of short-shafted in this, being Master Kaiselis and Dormammu. But I still think they did a pretty good job with that and really understood what was going on with Doctor Strange as a character. So it goes off and we see Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, a brilliant neurosurgeon who's pretty arrogant in what he does. I mean, he's good, but it's gotten to a level that's like, okay, you really need to kind of like lay off. I mean, you're good, but don't act so superior to everyone. Because he's doing like this delicate surgery while also naming off all these songs and all that and kind of showing off. Is called in by Dr. Palmer to kind of look at someone's x-ray for their brain because they've been declared brain dead. But he's like, oh God, there's something in there, we gotta get it out. And he's like being really belittling to the dude. You're like, well, you almost killed this dude, but that's why I'm here. And he just gets in and removes the bullet and goes on his way. And it's like, okay, you're good, but you don't have to be that much of an asshole about it. So you can also kind of see that there will be similarities between him and Tony Stark, but Stark's arrogance is mainly kind of more of a defense mechanism, if you know what I mean, and that he like projects this certain self, this very confident self, in order to kind of hide his true emotions and all that, because he usually doesn't like to talk about that kind of stuff. So he's like the braggart, being the ladies' man, doing all this money stuff. Whereas Strange, that arrogance is to like validate who he is. He's like, I am the best, and I will do what I want to do, pretty much, because I know what I'm doing. You don't. So he was really kind of cool to kind of see that being built up, while we're going to eventually see the teardown that's going to be occurring, because he's going off to this conference that's about him. We'd seen before that Palmer was talking to him before because he had invited her to come, but we see that they were former lovers, and the reason that she broke up with him was because everything kind of had to be about him. So he's driving off in his fancy sports car and all of that, and we see him talking on the phone with this guy about like cases that he could take, like one, of course, with a kind of Easter egg of being like a 35-year-old guy in the Air Force who's gotten injuries to his spine and all that, and that's of course a nod to Rhodey in Captain America Civil War. And he's like, nah, he's arrogant, but he is very risk averse to failure because he doesn't want his percentage to go down and whatnot and be like a failure. It's like, oh geez. And while he's doing this, he's driving recklessly in the rain and leads him to crash and have his hands have nerve damage and be pretty much unable to continue his career as a neurosurgeon. And this, of course, breaks him down to where he's like mean and nasty because he can't do his hands and his job were his identity. And now that's gone, and he's lashing out at people, lashing out at Palmer, saying that she just wants to be with him to fix him and be a help case and all that. And we see him pretty well. And then he's talking with his physical therapist, and he's like, well, I did see a dude who was pretty much all paralyzed walking again. And he's like, I need to talk with him. And because he had sent over the case file, he's like, see, I told you. And he goes to talk with him. And this person had went off to the east and said he found enlightenment and was able to walk again. And it's like, all right, I've got nothing else to lose. And he continues his journey to the east. And of course, he spent all of his money, and nobody else would help him. Everybody, and ironically, everybody who would try to help him, he would think would try to help him, didn't take him on because they were afraid that they would dock their prestige as well. And it just goes to show that what goes around comes around. So he's there, he's trying to find the place, and he gets beset by people because they wanted to take his watch and all that. And he's like, please no, and he's getting pretty much beat up, where we're introduced to Mordo, who's the actor they picked was amazing because he's able to do the physicality and also, I think, bring a lot to Baron Mordo as a character, even though he's not the Baron yet. So he takes him there, and Strange is like, that looks more like the place that I need to go to. And Mordo's like, I was disrespectful like you once, and then brings him in to show him to the Ancient One. And we see the Ancient One, and of course, I think the actress they picked did a very good job. And she was able to exude the ethereal quality that the Ancient One should exude about like the knowledge that they have, while also being a very capable practitioner of the arts that they know. As we saw when our villain Master Kaiselis had stolen a ritual from the library, beheaded the librarian, and she chased after him, and we had a really good fight scene CGI-wise with like the worlds and the spells and everything as Master Kaiselis and his group escaped. And I knew there was going to be some backlash with this because Marvel was kind of in a no-win situation. Originally in the comics, the Ancient One is usually depicted at this point to be a Tibetan man. Now, I understand that Marvel wants to do these films worldwide, and to do that, it would be a detriment to their Chinese market because China does not recognize Tibet. So they were kind of in a scenario where they were kind of screwed if they did and screwed if they didn't. But I think the best kind of possible outcome did kind of come into play here because we got a good representation of the Ancient One, and who's to say that other Ancient Ones may be looked into later on, because time travel and whatnot is introduced. Well, time control more is introduced, and we could see like past Ancient Ones or future Ancient Ones going forward. But overall, I was really happy with her performance and kind of showing Strange the way up from his rock bottom, because his hands are shaking and he's got nothing now. But of course, he still had his arrogance until the Ancient One kind of showed him how the world really is, how interconnected and giant it is. Because we've not only got like Norse gods and Ghost Riders, we've got multiple dimensions. We've got different dimensions that we can't even really comprehend. And they did a really good job with those different dimensions and showing the dark dimension, the dimension of Dormammu, who Kaiselis has been kind of working for, worshipping, because he had lost his family. He wants a place with no death to kind of make everyone immortal, and he thinks this is the best way. Fuse our dimension with Dormammu and live forever. And that's good, but I think they could have devoted more time to fleshing him out to make him a better villain. He does have mastered skills in the mystic arts, but I just think more time could have been used to make him a better threat thematically throughout the movie. So Strange goes through and training, understanding what's going on. It was funny that they had like Wi-Fi, and it's like, oh, okay, we got all this stuff. And his training and talking to Wong, those were some good stuff that they did with Wong. And then he's like talking to him about like, oh, you've only got one name? Okay, Beyonce. And then that leads to Wong listening to Beyonce in the library, and as Strange is using portals to grab books and read them and all that. And it was like really cool and effective kind of setup that Strange is smart. He just has to watch out for his arrogance and his ego. And so he learns pretty well, gets to understand what's going on. He finally finds the Eye of Agamotto and is using it to mess with kind of time and see what ritual was ripped from the Book of the Ancient One. And then, of course, Mordo comes up and like, you have to watch out what you're doing. That's against the natural laws. You can make a paradox. You can get stuck in a time loop. A lot of bad shit can happen. And of course, Strange does more than he thinks. He's like, I gotta see what's doing with this. Okay. And of course, that comes into play later as we learn that the Sanctum Sanctorums around the world, one in London, one in Hong Kong, one in New York, are used to protect the world and shield it from Dormammu. And that's when, of course, Master Caecilius and his students start attacking him, destroying the London one, and then going after the New York one, of which Strange has to defend. And this was a kind of big thing because showing how he had to defend it, he wasn't as practiced as like the students and Caecilius were. But because of his thinking and what was going on, he was able to at least survive and else kind of get rid of the students in pretty various ways by using his surroundings and kind of thinking quickly. And of course, he did bond with the Robes of Levitation, a relic that have a mind of their own, try to protect him, do all these cool things. He does have like the one-on-one with Caecilius and has him kind of captured for a moment before he is going on and fighting some more. And of course, they bring in Palmer because he gets wounded by one of the students and has a cruel astral projection fight that he ends up killing the student. And this deeply affects him because he's a doctor. He's taken the Hippocratic Oath to do no harm. He pissed off about that against the Ancient One, talking to her, and she's like, that's a selfish reason to feel that way. I couldn't see the Ancient One, but I was more like you didn't really teach him how to like effectively not get out of a situation like that without killing. Granted, there are parts and times where killing's the only option, but of course, we never know until we're put in that situation. But of course, Strange, I think, is still trying to deal with the fact that he has these responsibilities on him now that he is a practitioner of the mystical arts. So, as that's going on, they again attack the New York Sanctorum, leading Strange to trap them in a mirror dimension, which leads them to a kind of big showdown between Caecilius, his students, and the Ancient One, where the Ancient One is mortally wounded, and he has a last astral projection one-on-one with her, talking about how she's kind of selfish for wanting this last moments of staying alive, trying to explain herself that she had used the ritual to siphon off energy from Dormammu's dimension as well. But a thing that the movie never really quite explained or gave true hints on was why she needed that. And if, to lengthen her life, give her more power, it never was really truly explained. I wish there was more explanation on that. So, as the Ancient One dies, it's then up to Strange, Mordo, and Wong to kind of defend the Hong Kong Sanctum Sanctorum, and as they get there, it's pretty much been blown up. But Strange uses the Eye of Agamotto to turn back time to see if they can defend it. But it's not working quite as well because Caecilius is still trying to fight them, so Strange gets into his head that he's going to go and try and bargain with Dormammu. And, of course, Dormammu's not doing it, so Strange has a very smart idea, which shows how humble he's become. He understands that time really has no meaning in Dormammu's dimension, so he puts him in a perpetual loop where Dormammu keeps killing Strange, but that's kind of the only thing, and he traps him in this loop. And that's a big thing. He is sacrificing himself over and over to save the Earth and the dimensions and all that. And it shows real growth as a character to be like, you know what? I could be dying all of eternity. This could be fun for Dormammu. But he will be trapped here. That will be the only thing he'll do. And that was kind of cool. He finally breaks Dormammu, makes the deal that he will leave Earth's dimension alone and take his students into the Dark Dimension. So that's the end of Caecilius and his students as they go in. The Sanctorums are safe, Earth is safe, and they put the Eye of Agamotto back. And Wong confirms that it is an Infinity Stone, of course, a Time Stone. So Thanos is going to want that for the Infinity War. So that's kind of where it ends. Mordo goes off on his own because he hates how the Ancient One and Strange have abused the natural laws and cannot abide that. And it was kind of cool to see that change of camaraderie from Mordo and Strange to like it's usually the villain that really does something wrong, but in this case it looks like it's kind of reversed. But see, the thing is, it's villains always see themselves as heroes. You know what I mean? So what may be heroic to one person may be villainous to another. And that looks to be the case in Mordo's case. So he goes off, and then we get our credit scenes. We get the first one, which is between Strange and Thor, and confirming that Strange is going to be in Thor 3 because Thor asked for help because he's brought Loki to look for Odin. He's like, alright, if I help you guys, that means you and Loki will get off of here. And he's like, yep. He's like, alright, yep, I'll help you. Seeing him dressed up with the levitation robe and his gloves and all that, it was like really cool. It's like, yes. Then we get the last end credit scene where we see Mordo going after the man who could walk again. And he goes, takes his power and says, I think there's too many sorcerers. And that's going to be a big thing. And I'm really interested to see how they're going to weave the more mystical parts and get them together with the rest of the MCU. Because now it's cool because we've got the plausibility of like men in iron suits, Norse gods, ghost riders, mystical arts in different dimensions, and aliens all in one universe. And I can't wait to see what they do next. I think they did a great job with this, and I'm really excited to see any sequels for Doctor Strange. So, those are my opinions on the movie. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.